Hello, and welcome to the Health Data Ethics Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Owens, and in this episode, I wanted to spend some time talking about the structure of AI outside of healthcare systems. I've been thinking a lot about AI within the healthcare ecosystem, and now I think it's important to turn our focus to our artificial intelligence vendors. Where are we getting our algorithms? Who are we partnering with to develop these? And where this really started was actually a headline that caught my eye about trust in generative AI was plummeting. And the article was premised around this interesting quote from Yann LeCun, who's the VP and the chief AI scientist at Meta. And his quote is that people should be concerned that only a small number of entities can build biases into AI systems. If we have open source based models that anyone or any group can fine tune, then we will have a wide diversity of biases for people to choose from. And this piqued my interest for several reasons. One, it made me think about the landscape of AI tech outside of healthcare in a way that I hadn't really. And the point that was being made is in the wake of OpenAI's reorganization, we are seeing a concentration of AI knowledge and AI talent in a few really firmly established organizations. And you're always going to have, startups, but the startup, we all know how startups happen, right? Like either you grow it to become one of the giants or you get acquired and you become one of the giants that way. And I thought it was interesting because in the pilots that I am thinking about, one of the things that a healthcare system generally looks for is an ability to kind of partner and play together that you often don't find out of a large, really stable company. So I thought this was really interesting. I think it's interesting too because I've been thinking a lot about how you build trust in artificial intelligence. And in the healthcare system, which is a notoriously hierarchical, very conservative system, you often build trust by having folks with clinical knowledge or a clinical background or a background in hospitals be the people who are doing some of the driving. So it's really interesting because what we have here is kind of a I don't want to say a difference of opinion, but you have two separate models, right? So you can, if you're a hospital system, you can partner with a big company. Let's say we have three different models. You can partner with a big company, right? A Microsoft, a Google, an OpenAI, and you can work with them to develop and to put AI into your healthcare. The fear is, founded or unfounded, that model, that direction is pretty much going to be one direction, right? You're going to get what Microsoft thinks you should have. You're going to get what Google thinks you should have. And the capacity for conversation and for clinical influence of that AI is going to be small, right? Because Microsoft and Google these are big businesses, right? They are not concerned about fine tuning a product for healthcare. They are concerned about creating a product that can be delivered to as many customers as possible. Model number two. Let's say that you're partnering with a small artificial intelligence company, somebody who has just started up, who's been through a couple of rounds of funding, and who's like they have the capacity to take on a healthcare system, but they are not at the level of Microsoft or Google. That is terrific. These folks are often willing to co-develop with you. It's great. They're sharing their expertise. You're sharing your expertise, and it all runs fine until either one of three things happens. Right? One, they run through their funding and they fold. Two, they get acquired by a Microsoft or a Google. Or three, they become so successful that they become then a Microsoft or a Google or an Apple or whatever. So you've got folks fluxing in and out of your top tech companies. Although this model is great for several years and like how long it takes a startup to either fold or become a tech giant is, that the timeline is open for discussion. But there isn't a long-term plan where you end up with, a best AI buddy in the small region for a long time. The third option is that you as a healthcare system can build your own internal AI expertise. You can do that. You can hire data scientists. You can hire people with PhDs in artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning. You can put together data sets. You can try to do all of this. And this is a great idea because it enables you have entire control, right? You're able to influence and flavor the development however you want. You're going to end up with something that is perfectly specialized for your environment. And you may be thinking, yeah, I could commercialize this. This is a great idea. You're competing though with our startups and with our Microsoft, Google, et cetera. You're competing with all of these for all of your talent. And you're doing so not with VC funding and not with Microsoft or Google money, but you're doing this with hospital money. That is really tenuous. Um, and so I started thinking about this, and I got myself into kind of a pickle, right? So I'm thinking about like, okay, if I were the CEO or the CIO or the chief digital officer of a healthcare system, what would I do? Which direction would I pick? And then I started thinking about the paper that I read a few weeks ago about tensions in innovation processes, and I thought, oh right, this is not a dichotomy or a trichotomy, I suppose. These are tensors, right? We are working within a tensor system. And so the correct solution is not to pick one corner, put a flag in it and say, this is the way we're doing things. The correct thing to do is to balance our tensors and find a solution that's a little bit of this so you can have the stability and the expertise of a Microsoft and a Google or an Apple. You can have some of the excitement and the creativity and the partnership of a startup company, and you can have some of the stability and the comfort that comes from owning your own owning, right? Nobody owns AI expertise, right? But I think about this as like these are the folks that are going to know your hospital business the best. And in all of this, as I'm thinking about all of this, I'm thinking, wow, this is a really interesting business proposition. I'm currently reading a book on business strategy, which I will review once I have finished it. But it is opening, some new doors for me to kind of think about, how do I think about business strategy for a hospital? And then I thought about our last episode. I thought about moral injury, and I thought, ooh, the other tensor that you have to add here is we have to balance that in all of these things. We need to be doing what's best for our patients. We need to be doing what's best for our patients and for our caregivers. We can't let go of this in our desire to chase the biggest, best AI stuff. We have to hold that as our North Star.